Hey there. I'm Alan Bergsnyder, and I am a software engineer who works at Amazon. I've been doing that for over a year now as a full time job, and I graduated from the University of Michigan with a degree in computer science in 2023. So basically, my first full time job in the field has been working at Amazon as a software engineer, and during college, I had a few internships, with one of them being at Amazon. Um, so I am making this channel and this first series specifically for people who are studying or learning about computer science or software engineering, um, but feel as if though there's still like a big gap between them taking the things that they've learned in the theory and applying it to actually making something or writing code. I have multiple friends who have expressed that, I've learned these algorithms, I've learned, this theory of comp, all this stuff, but like when it gets time to write the code, I like have to, ask ChatGPT to help and stuff because it's like, and of course that, is a they just need to practice more kind of problem. But also, I think that, sometimes some college programs just aren't as good about like creating interactive assessments and projects and stuff and might be more theory based. So, again, that's like the focus of this. So, this little first series, I thought I'm just going to make like a simple weather app, web app, so that we can explore like what a back end is, what a front end is, how to make them link together, and some like just really basic things. And I thought like let's just do it in Python because that's we'll be able to hit the ground running really quickly with that. And so I might gloss over some things in this, and also very much worth mentioning. I'm at the infancy of my career, and also knowledge. I'm not the world's best programmer. I'm extremely far from it. So I will make mistakes. There will be things that I'm sure I do that aren't correct, but ideally, someone points them out in the comments if anybody sees this or something like that. But anyways, this first video, just to keep these videos nice and short, just going to be initializing a project, a simple Python project, as if though, and I'm gonna close my bedroom door because my pet birds are yapping. But just going to be initializing a simple Python project on my computer. So I'm on a Mac, but shouldn't really matter. I'm going to go to a directory I made for this. Desktop, YouTube, web app? No. Python, web app. Weather? Yeah. Okay. Here, I'm just going to show it's an empty folder. Lists the contents of the folder. There's nothing in here. So now we are going to open up VS Code and we are just going to literally just initialize the project, right? So the first thing that I might want to do is I might want to make this a Git repository. So if you don't know what Git is, it's a way to basically manage your code changes, and it's especially useful when you're doing a project with multiple people, which we won't be, but I'll still, as I'm going through things, explain like some of the very basic Git commands and like just some general best practices as more videos come out. But by typing Git space init, we've initialized an empty Git repository, and now when we list what's in this folder, we see the hidden file .git. We can create another one. You're going to see this in pretty much any code repository you ever look at. So we can create a file called .gitignore, and this is basically going to be a list of all the files that we don't want to be included in our Git history or our Git log. So right now we don't have any files in our project besides the gitignore, but when we add some in a second, we'll see in this source control, this tracker of our changes, what happens. So right now, if I were to commit to my Git log, the only thing I've done so far is create this gitignore. We're going to create a virtual environment, which is something that you do in Python to containerize and isolate your projects. So basically, right, on my computer, this is not the only Python project that I have, and all of my Python projects have different like dependencies. And if you don't know what a dependency is, it's basically like the simplest way to put it is like when you import a package that is not something that you've written on your computer. So for example, for this weather app, we're going to want some weather data. We're going to want like access to a weather API. So I'm going to Google what a Python weather API is, and then we're going to install that dependency in our virtual environment. However, we don't want that dependency to conflict with potentially other projects on my computer that have, potentially that weather module and maybe at a different version. So we create a container for our environment that keeps everything encapsulated within it, and therefore it doesn't interact with anything else on my computer. So with that being said, the way to do that is to do python-m venv, short for virtual environment, and then you can just name your virtual environment. So I'm just going to call mine env. And so when I do that, we're creating this virtual environment, and you're going to notice now I have 1,400 plus code changes, right? And if we go back to the basically like directory explorer, we can see this new folder called env, which is that virtual environment that we just created. So if I were trying to, keep control of this repository and make it like really clear what's going on, I would never want to git commit this to the commit log for other developers to see, because this env is completely based on my computer. The env is the binaries, like literally everything about that virtual environment is based on my computer's architecture. The fact that I'm on a Apple Silicon, all that jazz that might not mean anything to you, and it doesn't mean anything to me really either, but it's all like based on that. And so other developers aren't going to get any use out of me logging my environment to the git log. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the git ignore, and we're going to add env as something that we ignore. And now you can see it kind of just got like darker. It's like not that's just the IDE's way of showing that it's not included in the change log. And we can see, hey, we're back to only having one change that'll be reflected in git. So that was a very, very quick and not thorough explanation of what a virtual environment is, a container for your environment, your Python project, and what git ignore does with the context of having a git repo. So now that we have that, we're going to want to set up our project with those dependencies I was talking about. So in Python, you create a file called requirements.txt a lot of times to basically list all of the different dependencies your project will have. And so the big simple web development framework in Python is called Flask. So just gonna look up that install. So looks like Flask 3.1.0. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come here and we're gonna put Flask equals 3.1.0 into our requirements file, and then now we want a weather API Python. Looks like we have Python weather, a free and asynchronous weather Python API made in Python for Python, and it looks like we can do client.get, pass a city. Basically, for our purposes, this is wonderful. So Python weather equals 2.0.7. Yep, 2.0.7. Cool. So now we have our requirements, and now we can actually go ahead and like install these, right? So to do that, we're going to use the Python package manager, which is called pip. And so we'll do pip install -r for like telling the installer that we're going to be passing a requirements file, and then passing it our requirements file. And it's going to go ahead and download these things into our virtual environment. So now these things are here. I forget where actually. Been unsure, but actually I've made a mistake and I just realized it. And I realized it when I saw that was cached. So when I did this, all these things were cached. However, that's simply because I am not actually operating within my virtual environment yet. I need to go source env bin activate, and this activate is a script that basically puts you inside of, or like activates your virtual environment. And so now you can see down here that it says env, because that's the name of my virtual environment. Now I'm within my virtual environment. Now I go to install the requirements. And actually they're still cached, so maybe I just don't understand what's going on. But now they're installed for the project, and we are able to use these things in a Python file. So one other thing, just to get things set up, I'm going to make a file called server.py. Going to now import Flask, because I can, because I've installed it in our virtual environment. And I'm going to just create like in the most bare bones way a Flask app. So you do flask.flask, and you just say __name. And basically what this is going to do, in combination with if __name is equal to __main app.run. Cool. So just to, oops, what have I done with the dual cursors? So just to explain what's going on here, we're just initializing a Flask app, and this right here in Python __name __, evaluates to the name of the module you're in, aka the file you're in. So right now we're in a file called server.py. So when this runs as part of a larger project, __name is server.py. However, when we execute from the command line like this, how you can run a Python file, server.py, __name actually is this in those cases. This is just how Python works. So when we basically run that, when we say python3 server.py, we are going to enter this if clause, and the Flask app will run. It'll start running. And so now we have a Flask app that's running. As you can see down here, it says running on HTTP 127.0.0.1 at port 5000. So we're here. Not found is the response, because we had a GET request to this address, and we don't have anything returned here. So just for the sake of the video, let's go ahead and get this set up by putting an API route for that slash, right, by doing @app.route with the route, and then all we have to do here is just write a function. Doesn't matter what it's called, but we'll call it just getIndex, because usually this route of a web page is known as like the index, or it'll be like .index slash HTML or .html, but we'll just call it getIndex, and here we can just return some, I forget if this actually works, to be honest, but this is HTML that I've put inside of a Python string. And so now what we'll do is we'll restart this server, and we can see that it's there. So we have hello world, and if I remove these header tags, this h1 is known as a header 1 tag, or the biggest type of header in HTML. We'll see that it just becomes normal text. So gone as quickly as I could, made some mistakes along the way, but this is my way of relearning Python also. It's been a few years, so forgive me. But what we've done, we've initialized a Flask app. To be completely honest with you, what does this all do? I would be very surprised if anybody knew actually how much work this does under the hood, but this can be your simplest way to practice creating a backend, creating a front end, and the integration between the two, so you can be a full stack developer. And we've created an API basically where we can our server can serve a GET request for this just like base path on the web page. And what did we do? We returned this information. This could have been also, right, we could have had Alan Schmallen, right, and we could observe what this does. And now we're looking at a JSON response. JSON, oops, that's a JSON means JavaScript object notation. And it's basically a way of representing data that you'll grow to become familiar with as you build your APIs. But again, all we've done is we've created a very, very simple backend. And in the next video, we will get into actually turning this into a weather app. But thank you very much for watching if you do, and or if you did, and yeah, stay tuned.